The message arrived at 0300 Earth Standard Time. Commander Diana Hayes stood before the holographic display in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, her weathered face illuminated by the pulsing red emergency beacon. The Proxima B colony, humanity's first successful extrasolar settlement, had gone dark. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing knot in her stomach. The recording flickered to life, showing Dr. James Harrison, the colony's chief scientist, his face streaked with dirt and what appeared to be blood. "This is an emergency transmission from Proxima Colony. Something's wrong with the dig site, we found something. It's not dead. Oh God, it's not dead at all. Don't send anyone. I repeat, don't." The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Commander Hayes turned to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Raj Patel, who was already pulling up the colony's vital statistics. 1,500 colonists, he reported. No life signs detected on any frequencies. Environmental systems are still operational, but internal sensors are offline. The colony had been humanity's crowning achievement, a self-sustaining settlement on a potentially habitable world orbiting Earth's nearest stellar neighbor. 3 years of successful operation, now reduced to an ominous silence across 11 light minutes of space. "Assemble the rapid response team," Hayes commanded. "I want the Hyperion prepped and ready for departure in 6 hours." She paused, studying the frozen image of Dr. Harrison. "And get me everything we have on their archaeological excavations." The Hyperion, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel, broke orbit 48 minutes ahead of schedule. Its crew of 30 included the elite members of the RRT, combat specialists, xenobiologists, and archaeological experts. As they prepared for the quantum tunnel jump that would bring them to Proxima B in days rather than years, Hayes reviewed the colony's final reports. The archaeological team had discovered something 3 kilometers beneath the colony's main dome, structures that predated human arrival by at least 50,000 years. The reports grew increasingly excited as they uncovered more chambers, filled with technology that defied analysis. Then, 2 days before the final transmission, they opened a sealed vault. "Commander," Lieutenant Patel's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're picking up something unusual from the quantum sensors. The space around Proxima B, it's distorted." Hayes made her way to the bridge, where a 3-dimensional map showed severe gravitational anomalies around their destination. "Natural phenomenon?" "Negative," replied Dr. Samira Patel, the ship's chief scientist and Raja's sister. "The distortions are artificial, forming patterns that suggest technological origin. Whatever's causing this, it's not random." As the Hyperion emerged from quantum space near Proxima B, the colony came into view. The massive geodesic domes still gleamed in the red dwarf's light, but something was different. Dark structures had erupted from the ground around the colony, their surfaces covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as the crew watched. "Life signs?" Hayes asked, though she already knew the answer. "None human," Samira replied, her voice trembling slightly. "But there's something else. The energy readings are off the charts, and they're coming from those structures. They're similar to the quantum fluctuations we detected earlier, but much stronger." Hayes ordered the ship into high orbit and assembled her team. They needed answers, and the only way to get them was to go down there. As she suited up in her powered armor, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had stumbled into something far bigger than themselves. The descent team consisted of Hayes, the Patel siblings, and 3 RRT operators, Sergeant Maria Santos, Corporal Wei Chin, and Private First Class Marcus Johnson. Their shuttle touched down near the colony's main airlock, kicking up red dust that seemed to glow in the alien sunlight. "Stay alert," Hayes warned as they approached the airlock. "We don't know what happened here, but assume hostile conditions." The team acknowledged with green status lights in her helmet display. The airlock cycled normally, but beyond it, the colony's main concourse told a story of chaos. Personal belongings lay scattered across the floor, and the walls bore strange markings, not damage, but deliberate patterns that resembled the symbols on the external structures. These weren't here in any of the colony footage, Samira noted, scanning the patterns. They're generating quantum fields similar to our FTL drive, but different. More complex. They made their way deeper into the colony, following the increasing density of symbols. The air grew heavier, though their suit sensors showed normal atmosphere. Hayes felt as if they were being watched, studied, measured by something ancient and patient. In the Central Research Lab, they found their first real clue. Dr. Harrison's final log entry played on a loop on his personal terminal. The patterns are a language, but not for communication, they're commands, written into the fabric of spacetime itself. They've been waiting, dormant, for someone to wake them up. We thought we were making history by coming here, but we were following a path laid down eons ago. They knew we would come. They've been guiding us since the first humans looked up at the stars and dreamed of. The message cut off as the symbols on the walls began to pulse with an inner light. The team's suits registered massive energy spikes, and the floor beneath them trembled. Fall back. Hayes ordered, but it was too late. The symbols flared brilliantly, and reality itself seemed to bend around them. As consciousness faded, Hayes heard a voice, not in her ears, but in her mind. The seed we planted has finally flowered. The trials begin. When she awoke, Hayes found herself and her team still in the lab, but something fundamental had changed. Through the dome's transparent panels, she could see that Proxima B's red sun had been joined by others, stars that shouldn't be there, couldn't be there. They hadn't just found evidence of ancient aliens. They had activated something that had been waiting for humanity all along, and the Commander Hayes stood at the observation window of the Hyperion's command deck, watching the impossible stars wheel overhead. Proxima B's sky now displayed constellations that no human telescope had ever captured, yet according to Dr. Samira Patel's analysis, they weren't hallucinations or projections. The quantum signatures are consistent with actual stellar bodies, Samira explained, gesturing at the holographic display. These stars exist in real spacetime, but they shouldn't be visible from our position. It's as if something has folded space around us. Lieutenant Raj Patel entered the command deck, his tablet displaying streams of data from the colony's recovered databases. "Commander, you need to see this." Before everything went dark, Dr. Harrison's team made a breakthrough in decoding the symbols. The holographic display shifted to show archaeological findings from Earth, cave paintings, ancient tablets, and megalithic structures. Overlaid on each image were patterns matching the symbols they'd found in the colony. "They're the same," Hayes breathed, understanding dawning. "These patterns have been on Earth all along." "Not just on Earth," Raj continued. "We've found matches in the genetic structure of human DNA. Sequences that geneticists have long considered junk DNA actually contain these patterns at a molecular level." Private Johnson, who had been quietly monitoring communications, suddenly straightened. "Commander, we're picking up a signal. It's coming from inside the colony's central spire." The team reassembled in the colony's main concourse, their powered armor upgraded with additional sensors and defensive capabilities. The central spire had been the colony's primary research facility, but now it hummed with an energy that made their suit sensors fluctuate wildly. According to these readings, Sergeant Santos reported, the energy signature matches the quantum frequency of human brainwaves. "It's like the building is thinking." They found the source in the spire's basement level. A chamber that hadn't existed before now occupied the space, its walls covered in flowing symbols that seemed to respond to their presence. In the center stood a pillar of light that contained what appeared to be a three-dimensional star map. "It's a message," Samira said, her voice filled with wonder as her instruments analyzed the display. "No, it's more than that. It's our history." The light shifted, showing Earth billions of years ago. They watched as beings of pure energy, the Nexarians, arrived on the young planet. These entities began a process of seeding worlds with specific genetic markers, creating a grand experiment spanning millennia. They didn't just influence our evolution, Corporal Chen realized. They designed it. Every major evolutionary leap in human history was guided. The display showed more, the rise and fall of civilizations lost to time, each one bringing humanity closer to some mysterious goal. The Nexarians had left their marks in our art, our architecture, our very DNA, breadcrumbs leading to this moment. But why? Hayes demanded of the shifting lights. Why guide us here? The answer came not in words but in images, countless worlds falling to a darkness between the stars, a force that consumed entire civilizations. The Nexarians had been guardians, protecting the galaxy from this threat. But they had grown too removed from physical existence, too abstract to fight an enemy that fed on the concrete reality of life itself. They needed successors, beings who could think abstractly but remain grounded in physical existence. Beings who could feel deeply, adapt quickly, and face impossible odds with determination. They had crafted humanity to be their heirs. The missing colonists, Johnson said suddenly. Could they be? Before he could finish, the symbols on the walls pulsed, and a figure stepped out of the light. It had the form of a human woman, but her skin glowed with the same energy as the symbols. When she spoke, they recognized Dr. Rebecca Foster, one of the colony's leading researchers. "We haven't disappeared," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air vibrate. "We've begun to change. The markers in our DNA have activated, beginning a transformation that the Nexarians designed eons ago. But not everyone will survive the process." The implications hit Hayes like a physical blow. The entire colony was an experiment. A test to see who could survive the transformation. Not just the colony, Foster corrected. All of humanity. The changes are spreading through quantum entanglement, affecting every human who carries the right genetic markers. Some will transform. Others will remain as they are. But all are needed for what's coming. The darkness moved in the spaces between stars, drawing closer. The ancient enemy that had driven the Nexarians to create humanity had sensed their successors awakening. A war that had been fought since the dawn of time was about to enter a new phase, and humanity stood at the center of it. Hayes looked at her team, seeing the weight of this revelation in their eyes. They had come seeking answers about a missing colony but had found humanity's true origin and destiny instead. The question now wasn't just about survival, it was about whether humanity could become what the Nexarians had designed them to be. As if in response to their thoughts, the symbols began to pulse more rapidly, and Foster's form started to fade. "The transformation cannot be stopped," she warned. "But it can be guided. Help those who are changing. Protect those who cannot. And prepare, the enemy remembers what the Nexarians did to them, and they will not allow their replacements to rise unopposed." The chamber plunged into darkness, leaving Hayes and her team with the knowledge that their mission had become something far greater than a rescue operation. They were now midwives to humanity's evolution, guardians of a transformation that would reshape their species. Above them, through the colony's domes, the impossible stars continued their dance, marking the beginning of a new chapter in human existence, one that had been written into their DNA since the first humans looked. The Hyperion's quantum communications array lit up with distress signals from across human space. Commander Hayes watched as red dots appeared on the galactic map, each representing another colony or outpost reporting strange phenomena. The transformation that had begun on Proxima b was spreading. 37 locations reporting similar incidents, Lieutenant Raj reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "We're seeing the same pattern everywhere, mysterious structures emerging from the ground, colonists experiencing changes, and..." He hesitated, "The stars are wrong at every location." Dr. Samira Patel burst onto the bridge, her usually composed demeanor shattered by excitement. "Commander, we've decoded more of the genetic markers. They're not just programming for physical transformation, they're memory structures. The Nexarians didn't just design our evolution, they embedded their knowledge within us. Hayes felt a familiar pressure building behind her eyes, the same sensation she'd been experiencing since their encounter in the chamber. How many others on the ship are feeling the changes? 40% of the crew has reported symptoms, Sergeant Santos answered, stepping onto the bridge. Her skin had taken on a subtle luminescence, similar to what they'd seen in Dr. Foster. The medical bay is overwhelmed with people experiencing headaches, visions, and other changes. The ship's AI interrupted with an urgent alert. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. Unknown vessels emerging across the system. Through the observation window, Hayes watched as massive ships materialized from fold space. Their design was organic, almost crystalline, but they radiated an emptiness that made her newly awakening senses recoil. The enemy that the Nexarians had warned them about had arrived. They call themselves the Void Hunters, a voice said. Hayes turned to find Corporal Chen standing at attention, but his eyes glowed with an inner light that suggested he was experiencing one of the embedded memories. They exist in the spaces between reality, feeding on the potential energy of civilizations. The Nexarians fought them to a stalemate, but couldn't defeat them entirely. The enemy ships began moving toward the colony, their crystalline surfaces absorbing all light that touched them. Hayes felt ancient knowledge stirring in her mind, understanding blooming like flowers in spring. All crews to battle stations, she ordered. But not the conventional weapons. Samira, access the colony's transformation chamber. The Nexarians left us more than just memories. Deep within the colony's spire, the symbol-covered chamber had changed. What was once a historical archive now displayed tactical information, showing the true nature of the conflict they faced. The Void Hunters didn't just want to destroy humanity, they wanted to consume the potential futures that the Nexarians had engineered into human DNA. The transformation isn't just about making us stronger, Hayes realized, as more ancestral memories surfaced. It's about accessing the quantum nature of consciousness itself. The Nexarians discovered that consciousness could affect reality at a fundamental level, but they became too removed from physical existence to use that power effectively. Private Johnson, who had been quietly monitoring the enemy ships, spoke up. They're launching something, thousands of small objects, heading toward every human settlement in the system. Harvesters, Samira said, her voice distant as she accessed the genetic memories. They'll try to extract the potential from anyone carrying the activated genes. We have to stop them. Hayes felt the knowledge crystallizing in her mind, understanding what needed to be done. The Nexarians hadn't just been preparing humanity for a war, they had been preparing them to succeed where the Nexarians had failed. Human emotions, human connections, human imperfection, these weren't weaknesses to be engineered away, but rather the key to fighting an enemy that fed on pure potential. Everyone who's experiencing the changes, Hayes commanded, focus on the following coordinates. The Nexarians left us weapons, hidden in the quantum substrate of space itself. Our consciousness can access them, but only if we work together. The transformed crew members joined their thoughts, guided by the genetic memories awakening within them. Above the colony, points of light began to appear, quantum gates opening to reveal weapons platforms that had laid dormant for millennia. But these weren't conventional weapons, they were tools designed to manipulate the very fabric of reality. As the Void Hunters' harvesters approached, Hayes felt the truth of humanity's purpose snap into focus. The Nexarians hadn't created humanity to be soldiers in their war. They had created them to be something entirely new, beings who could bridge the gap between physical reality and quantum potential, between order and chaos, between the rational and the emotional. They're almost in range, Raj reported, his own transformation beginning to manifest as patches of luminescent skin. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. Hayes opened herself fully to the genetic memories, accepting the knowledge that the Nexarians had hidden within her DNA. The truth about humanity's creation was far more complex and beautiful than they had imagined. And as the enemy closed in, she prepared to reveal that truth in a way that would change the course of the war, and humanity, forever. Through the quantum enchant's sensors, Hayes watched the Void Hunters advance, knowing that the next few moments would determine not just the fate of Proxima b, but the future of human evolution itself. The real question wasn't whether humanity could win this war, but whether they could be. The quantum weapons platforms hummed with ancient power as Commander Hayes directed the combined consciousness of her transformed crew. The Void Hunters' harvesters swarmed toward them, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the impossible stars that now filled Proxima b's sky. Traditional defenses are ineffective, Lieutenant Raj reported, his skin now glowing with intricate patterns that mimicked the symbols in the colony. Their ships absorb all conventional energy weapons. That's because we've been fighting them the wrong way, Hayes responded, newfound knowledge flowing through her transformed consciousness. They don't exist fully in our reality, they exist in the potential spaces between moments. That's why the Nexarians couldn't defeat them. But we can. Dr. Samira Patel's voice carried across their newly formed mental network. The genetic memories are showing me something. Our emotions, they create quantum ripples in reality itself. The Nexarians engineered us to be able to shape those ripples. The first wave of harvesters reached the outer defense perimeter. Instead of attacking with conventional weapons, Hayes directed the transformed crew to focus their consciousness through the ancient platforms. Their combined emotional energy, fear, determination, hope, anger, created patterns in quantum space that the Void Hunters couldn't simply absorb. They're pulling back, Sergeant Santos observed, her transformed senses extending far beyond normal human perception. But something bigger is coming. The space above Proxima b twisted as the main Void Hunter fleet began to emerge. Their massive ships seemed to drink in the light of the stars themselves, creating pools of absolute darkness. But now, with their enhanced perception, the crew could see what they truly were, wounds in reality, places where the fundamental forces of the universe had been consumed. Private Johnson, monitoring the quantum communications network, suddenly straightened. Commander, we're receiving signals from Earth and all major colonies. The transformation, it's accelerating everywhere. And he paused, amazed, they're all connected. Every transformed human is part of a growing quantum network. Hayes felt it too, millions of minds linking across vast distances, sharing knowledge, memories, and power. The Nexarians' plan was revealing itself in full. Humanity wasn't meant to fight the Void Hunters as individual warriors, but as a collective consciousness that could retain its individuality. New contact. Corporal Chen called out. Something's emerging from Fold space, but it's different. A massive ship appeared, but unlike the dark vessels of the Void Hunters, this one shimmered with familiar patterns. On its bridge stood fully transformed humans from other colonies, their bodies radiating the same energy as Dr. Foster's had. Commander Hayes, a voice echoed in their shared consciousness. Admiral Jackson, once the commander of Earth's home fleet, now stood transformed before them through quantum projection. We bring reinforcements, and knowledge. The transformed colonies have discovered something remarkable about our new abilities. The Admiral's consciousness shared a stream of information that made Hayes gasp. The transformed humans weren't just accessing the Nexarians' weapons, they were learning to manipulate the quantum fabric of space itself. Each person's unique emotional signature created different effects, and when combined, they could reshape reality in ways the Void Hunters couldn't counter. We're not just fighting them, Hayes realized. We're rewriting the rules of their existence. The Void Hunters seemed to sense this new development. Their fleet began a complex maneuver, their ships moving in patterns that tore at the quantum fabric of space. Reality itself groaned under the strain of their assault. But humanity's response was unlike anything the ancient enemy had encountered. Instead of meeting force with force, the transformed humans began weaving their emotions into the very structure of spacetime. Love created bonds that the Void Hunters couldn't sever. Fear generated barriers they couldn't penetrate. Hope opened pathways to possibilities they couldn't consume. They're trying to adapt, Samira observed, monitoring the quantum fluctuations. But they can't understand what we're doing. They feed on pure potential, but we're creating something new, potential shaped by human consciousness. The battle above Proxima b became a war of reality itself. The Void Hunters tried to consume space and time, but wherever they fed, they found human emotions had already transformed the quantum fabric into something they couldn't digest. It was like trying to drink from a river that changed its nature with every sip. As the conflict escalated, Hayes felt a deeper truth emerging from the genetic memories. The Nexarians hadn't just been looking for successors, they had been seeking to create something entirely new. Humanity's transformation wasn't an end, but a beginning. Through their shared consciousness, Admiral Jackson shared a final revelation: the Nexarians didn't fail in their war against the Void Hunters. They succeeded in creating us. We're not meant to destroy the enemy, we're meant to transform them, just as we've been transformed. The sky above Proxima b became a battlefield of impossible geometries and quantum probabilities, as humanity began to truly understand its purpose in the universe. They weren't soldiers in an ancient war, they were the next step in the evolution of consciousness itself. And as Hayes directed her crew in this reality-bending conflict, she realized that the true power of humanity lay not in their ability to destroy, but in their capacity to change, to feel, to transform. The battle above Proxima b had become something beyond war, a clash between two fundamentally different ways of existing in the universe. Commander Hayes stood at the nexus of humanity's transformed consciousness, feeling the combined power of millions of minds linked across space and time. The Void Hunters are changing their strategy, Lieutenant Raj reported, his transformed body now pulsing with quantum energy. They're merging their ships into something larger. The enemy fleet collapsed inward, their crystalline vessels flowing together like liquid darkness. What emerged was a singular entity that dwarfed even the massive Nexarian weapons platforms, a being of pure void, a negation of reality itself. Through the shared consciousness, Admiral Jackson's voice rang with revelation: they're showing us their true form. This is what the Nexarians fought, not a fleet, not an army, but a singular consciousness that seeks to consume all possibility. Dr. Samira Patel's consciousness surged through the network, carrying crucial information. The genetic memories are complete. I understand now, the Nexarians didn't just give us weapons or knowledge. They gave us understanding. The Void Hunters aren't our enemy, they're our opposite. And that's why we're needed. The massive void entity spoke directly into their minds, its thoughts ancient and cold: we are the end of all things. We consume potential to prevent chaos. We bring the peace of emptiness. Why do you resist? Hayes felt the truth crystallizing in her transformed consciousness. The Void Hunters weren't evil, they were the universe's attempt to prevent change, to maintain order by consuming possibility itself. The Nexarians, beings of pure energy and thought, couldn't counter this force because they had moved too far from the physical realm. But humans, with their transformed bodies and minds, could bridge the gap between physical reality and quantum potential. They could feel, love, hope, and fear, yet also touch the fundamental forces of the universe. They were the perfect mediators between order and chaos. We don't need to destroy you, Hayes projected, her thoughts carrying the weight of humanity's combined consciousness. We can show you another way. The transformed humans began to move in concert, their emotions creating patterns in quantum space that didn't fight the void, but embraced it. Love met emptiness not with resistance but with acceptance. Fear became a bridge to understanding. Hope opened doorways to new possibilities. Private Johnson, his consciousness expanded across the quantum network, suddenly understood. We're not weapons or warriors. We're translators. The void entity recoiled, then pressed forward, trying to consume their quantum manipulations. But instead of finding easy prey, it encountered something it had never experienced: emotions bound to the fabric of spacetime, creating new forms of reality that couldn't be reduced to nothingness. Corporal Chen's voice carried across the network, "It's working. The void, it's beginning to resonate with our frequencies." Through their shared perception, they watched as the massive void entity began to change. Where it touched humanity's quantum emotional constructs, it didn't consume them but instead began to transform. The emptiness gained texture, depth, possibility. This was the Nexarians' plan all along, Sergeant Santos realized. Not to destroy the void, but to teach it to coexist with potential. They created us because only beings who could fully experience both the physical and quantum realms could show the void another way to exist. The transformation spread across the void entity like ripples in a dark pool. Where there had been only consumption, now there was exchange. Where there had been emptiness, now there was possibility. The void hunters weren't being destroyed, they were evolving. Admiral Jackson's consciousness merged with Hayes's, sharing the final piece of understanding. The transformed humans weren't just humanity's next step, they were the universe's way of healing itself. The void was necessary, it prevented reality from spinning into chaos. But it needed to learn balance, to understand that some potential must remain unconsumed for existence to have meaning. The massive void entity hung above Proxima b, no longer a wound in reality but a new form of existence. When it spoke again, its thoughts carried emotions for the first time. "We understand. The emptiness, it can coexist with possibility." Hayes felt the genetic memories of the Nexarians surge forward, showing her the final truth. The ancient guardians hadn't been preparing humanity for war, they had been preparing them for this moment of universal transformation. The void would continue its role of maintaining cosmic balance, but now it would do so with understanding rather than pure consumption. Through the quantum network, Hayes felt similar transformations happening across the galaxy. The void hunters weren't retreating, they were changing, learning, growing. And humanity, in helping them evolve, had fulfilled its destiny not as conquerors or destroyers, but as teachers and healers of reality itself. The impossible stars above Proxima b shifted one final time, arranging themselves into a new pattern that represented neither order nor chaos, but a harmony between both. The transformed humans and the evolved void entities began to work together, maintaining the balance of existence through understanding rather than conflict. Commander Hayes stood on the observation deck of the Hyperion, watching as the new era dawned. Humanity had not just survived its trial by fire, it had transcended it, becoming something greater than either their creators or their former enemies had imagined. They were now the guardians not just of life or consciousness, but of the very balance of reality itself. And in the spaces between the stars, a new song began to play, the harmony of potential and void, of emotion and reason, of physical